Hello class. So I have made this PowerPoint all about peer reviews. I do want to go over the basics, give you some examples of what good peer reviews look like, the do's and don'ts, and overall what to really expect. So in this slide, I'm going to go over the basic information about the peer reviews. So you do have 2 peer reviews per session. You have one for Project 1 and Project 2, and on the course schedule, it tells you what dates they are due. They are worth 20 points, so they are worth just 10 more points more than your other discussion boards. You are required to read and review 2 of your peers' papers. And I will say this again, it is 2 peers, not 1. You have the option of submitting your feedback in a Word document or in the discussion board as a text entry. Usually, if you submit your feedback in a Word document, I feel it is a lot more private and gives it a more personal feel. However, it is your choice, so feel free to do what you feel most comfortable with. You do have a deadline to meet with these peer reviews. Again, in the course schedule, you will see the due date, and so make sure that you submit them by the due date. This is a learning experience for you and your peers. Trust me, you are going to gain some new insight, information, so I suggest that you mentally prepare yourself for that. Alrighty, so the next slide is, what do I do in a peer review? And that is a good question. What exactly do you do in a peer review? You are providing feedback to your peers. That's the number one thing that you are doing. You are reading the paper. In order to provide feedback, make sure you read the paper first. You are helping your peers identify the strong aspects of the paper and helping find the areas that need improvement. You are also identifying what additions or changes you should add to your own paper. You are communicating with your peer in the discussion board. Again, make sure that you do all of the following. Read the paper. That's super important. It's very crucial because if you don't read the paper or you skim through it, you may miss out on some opportunities for your peer. In this slide, I'm going to go over the expectations of the peer reviews. So the first expectation is read through your peer's paper. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you do want to make sure that you have read through the papers. You don't want to skim through them because, as I said before, there is a chance that you can miss those opportunities. Do not do this at the last minute. Try your best to follow the course schedule and do this as soon as possible. Be descriptive with your feedback. Mention why this works or why that doesn't work. I've had students in previous courses tell the peer what area needed improvement, but they don't mention why it needs improvement or how it is going to benefit the paper if they change it the way that they suggested. So be descriptive, detailed as possible. Do not edit their paper. What I mean by that is you don't need to focus on the grammatical errors. Again, you can point them out, however, just do not focus only on that. It's not your job to do that. Finish them by the due date. This ties in with do not do this at the last minute. Just follow the course schedule and you should be fine. Look and see which peer needs review. Remember, it is 2 peers. So always make sure that you're checking that each one of your peers has at least had 2 people review their paper. Look out for one another, and it is important that all of you do this. Do not focus only on the strengths, focus on the areas of improvement as well. In the next couple of slides, I will go over the strengths and the areas of improvement and go more into detail with these 2 sections. The strengths. So first, I always suggest starting off by mentioning the strengths of the paper. You don't necessarily want to jump in right away with the suggestions for the areas of improvement. You do want to let your peers know what made their paper strong. The recommended amount is 3. Necessarily, it's not true, but I do feel that 3 strengths is enough for your peers. Describe how this part is a strength. I do want you to be descriptive and let your peer know why that specific part of their paper is very strong, why you consider it a strength. An example of strengths, and this can vary, but you can talk about how their thesis statement was very strong, they have valid claims, good visuals, and you were easily able to identify the target audience. These are just some examples. If you do notice something else, feel free to mention it. Do not overdo it with the strengths. Again, it is important that you do mention them, but you don't want to focus only on the strengths. There are areas that need improvement, and those need to be identified as well. So now we're going to talk about areas of improvement. So with the areas of improvement, as I said, start off with the strengths and then go ahead and add the areas of improvement. Recommend as many as you can find. Again, there is no limit. If you do want to write about 3, then you're more than welcome to write about 3, just as long as you are able to identify some areas. You want to be descriptive with this feedback and explain why it should be changed. So if you notice something that is not sounding right or doesn't flow in your peer's paragraph 2, you have a suggestion on how to change it, explain how it should be changed, and go into details to why it would benefit them. Be courteous with the feedback, have respect for one another. It is important that you do this in a professional manner and you're respectful at all times. Read through the paper and identify the areas that need improvement. Every paper has at least 1 or 2 areas that need improvement. In previous courses, I have had students talk about the strengths and then finish the peer review by saying, your paper looked good, there was nothing I could find. That's not true. I suggest going through the paper, reading it one more time, and maybe you'll notice an area that needs improvement the second time that you read it. So in this slide, again, I'm just going to go over the areas of improvement. So with the areas of improvement, I have listed some examples of what they are or what they usually are. So one could be the paper does not flow. When you read it out loud, it just doesn't sound correct, or you notice that certain sentences are a little off and don't make sense. You are having trouble identifying the thesis statement, or you may not notice that they have a thesis statement. And of course, the thesis statement is one of the important aspects of the paper. Argument or solutions are not solid. APA format looks off. Missing multi-model components. Sentence structure. Quotes and paraphrasing not making sense. These are just some of the examples. However, if you do notice something else that needs some improvement, feel free to mention it. As I always say, just be descriptive about it, detailed, and look out for your peer at all times. What I mean by looking out for your peer is just making sure that they stay on the right track. So in this slide, I'm going to go over the example of peer reviews. I have it categorized under descriptive peer reviews, which I call the do's. And then I have another set of peer reviews, which are considered short, and the don'ts. So with the 2 examples that I have provided for the do's, I want you to notice the description I have put after I've suggested something. In the first example, I pointed out that the in-text citation needs to be fixed in paragraph 2. I let Tina know that this was found in paragraph 2. I also let Tina know how the in-text citation should be done. I ended it with mentioning that she only had added the author's last name and did not add the year. That lets Tina know that she needs to go back and change that part. In the second example, I mentioned that James has a really great attention grabber in his introduction. He does a great job of capturing the attention. But as I read through the paper, I was confused on who his audience was. I noticed that James, the way he has the paper written, the structure of it, I noticed that this sounds like as if it's more towards the parents. I make my suggestion and I tell him why this would help, and I'm also letting him know how it's going to benefit. It's going to benefit the audience because it's bringing more awareness, and it's also going to help the parents understand why violent video games, which is James's topic, is a serious matter. So in the next section, the short peer reviews, the don'ts, I have all these examples. So you do notice how the first example starts off a little longer, but there's nothing mentioned as to why I really liked reading the paper. I also ended it with, there's really nothing I think you should change. This goes back to where I mentioned that if you do encounter that, my suggestion is to read the paper over again, and you will notice something that you may have missed the first time. In the second example, I start off by mentioning where I want to add a suggestion, which is in paragraph 3, but I don't describe why more quotes are needed. In the third example, again, I point out where I am suggesting the area. However, I don't offer any suggestion on how to change it or why it's going to benefit the paper. In the fourth example, I mentioned that the multi-model is a strength. However, I don't describe why it is a strength, and I simply just focused on the strength, and I did not have it in any descriptive way. So therefore, it makes it a short peer review. In the last example, I say, Jake, I couldn't find anything to change. The whole paper looks good. I have had students in the past write that in the peer review. I suggest, and I will say this one more time, going back into the paper, reading it one more time, and I guarantee that you will notice some area that needs improvement, and you may have missed it the first time, but I know you will find it the second time. These are just, like I said, the examples. These are examples from previous courses. So, from previous students of their descriptive peer reviews, and then some of these short peer reviews. And finally, I'm going to end the PowerPoint with final thoughts. So, it is important to take these peer reviews seriously. I really do recommend that you take them seriously because not only is it a part of your grade, it really is going to help you out in turning in the best final draft. Share your thoughts with your peers. I always recommend that you share your thoughts with your peers. Again, if you notice something that you feel needs to be changed, let them know. If you want to share why that strength made their paper really strong, share it with them. Don't hold back. engage. What I mean by engage is communicate, communicate, communicate. You are communicating through the discussion board. You don't have the luxury that other students have where they have the face-to-face classroom interaction. So the discussion board is really important, and it is going to be your guide. Be descriptive. Really be descriptive and let your peers know the do's and the don'ts, the areas of improvement, the strengths, and your overall thoughts of their paper. And be descriptive with it at all times. Do not wait till the last minute. As I have mentioned probably numerous times, and I do apologize, I just want you all to really not wait till the last minute. I understand that life happens and sometimes it's out of our control. However, just try your best to get this done in a timely manner on the due date or before. Read through the papers. So again, just read through the papers. If you have to read it more than once, read it more than once. Be kind. At all times, stay professional and respectful. Look out for one another. This is going to benefit you in the long run. It is a learning experience, like I mentioned before. You're going to notice something that your peer had that you really liked that you're going to want to add into your own paper. Or you're missing something and you remember by reading your peer's paper that you're going to add it into your own paper. Thank you so much for watching this video and reading through the PowerPoint. I hope that this helps you out in any way possible. As always, I am available via email with any of your questions or concerns.